how was Mossel Bay 70.3? So, guys, let me tell you, it was an adventure. Oh my God. So, left Kenya, was it Wednesday? Was it Thursday morning? Thursday morning. We're blessed enough to fly Kenya Airways. Shout out to Jennifer. Thank you very much for sorting out our tickets. And then the best part about it, they sorted us out from Nairobi straight through to Port Elizabeth. And then I'm sure you guys are like, what? I'm supposed to go into Mossel Bay? No. Like, listen, Mossel Bay is like in between Port Elizabeth and Cape Town. So initially we were supposed to go to Cape Town, but then spoke to our deep state member called Silas Hayundi, based in Port Elizabeth. He's like, nah, man, you leave Cape Town, come to the Windy City. So, Nairobi, Joburg, fantastic flight with KQ. The food was amazing. Like, I'd literally fly KQ just for food. It would be one of the most expensive meals I've had, but hey, you know what? Hospitality top notch, fantastic landing. And then from there, jumped on a plane from Joburg straight to Port Elizabeth and get to the airport. I was expecting Silas and Pete to like pick us up with like traditional dancers and things like that, Zulu warriors with spears, but I guess budget didn't allow. But anyway, so from there they picked us up, went to stay at our accommodation, and boy, oh boy, Royalstone was like, you've seen the video? Oh my gosh. Where do you stay in the heart of the city and you have wildlife walking around like around your compound and things like that? Like, you go for a trail run and you're meeting like a buffalo. Yeah. More motivation to run faster. Anyway, guys, let me focus. So yeah, from there, stayed in Port Elizabeth for the night. Fantastic accommodation. So, Pete, Becky, Silas, Michelle, Tutu, shout out to you guys. Thank you for taking care of us like we're your brothers and sisters. So, big up to you guys. May God continue blessing you and expanding your territory. Yeah, and then the next day, Friday, jumped into the cars, drove down to Mossel Bay, 4-hour drive, beautiful, expansive roads and things like that. Passed by Storms River, had a fantastic coffee and things like that. The bagels were so amazing. And then landed in Mossel Bay, straight into registration, picked our bags, and you can see the sweat on people's faces from that picture that has just zoomed past you and things like that. If the picture didn't zoom past you, we'll talk to the editing team, or you can just go to our social media handles and see how guys were dying of anxiety. Yeah. And then from there, did a run recce, Saturday, did a bike recce, swim recce, had lunch, went and set up transition, and then it was go time on Sunday. But guess what? My go time started at 1 a.m. Tossed and turned, woke up at 1 a.m. My mind was racing, my heart was racing. Everything wanted to come out. I wanted to throw up. I wanted to take a dump. Like, it was just crazy. And then, Jesus says that sometimes that is that is the best time to talk to him because everything is zen. So I just like, okay, since you're up, homie, have a conversation with your maker. And I did. So from 1 till 3:30 in the morning, I was just praying and, petitioning and asking, going, oh my God, am I going to make it again? This happened in Rwanda, why is happening again? And then went and sat in bed and then got out of bed at 4 o'clock because that was our call time. And then prepped and left for the race at 5. So yeah, that's literally my Sunday. That's how it started. So yeah, got into transition, sorted out our bottles, everything. Took a cup of coffee, took my gel, my electrolyte, and I was like, you know what? If God be for us, who can be against us? Boom! And we did our prayers, jumped into the water for the start of the 1.9 kilometer swim. And boy, oh boy, didn't I enjoy that water. Okay, disclaimer. I didn't make my time. My time was supposed to be 40 minutes. I came out 43 minutes. But hear me, the same thing happened again. I was coming out of the water. I saw like all the people, and then I was like, James Bond came out of the water for 3 minutes, and I was like, damn, man, this feels good. Woo! So I was like, considering I'd slept for all of like 3 hours or 4 hours, then I was like, oh, feels good. Came out of the water, guys cheering. They're like, go hands up, go hands up. I think they're talking to the guy behind me because they definitely lost me because he was the one throwing his hands in the air. So, like, I know somewhere in the world somebody thinks I'm handsome. Fast track to transition, wetsuit off. In my mind, I'm like, I'm going to be like, systematic and put everything together. And my lips were white. Wow. Looked like I just walked out the Kalahari Desert. I could taste the salt from the ocean, things like that. So drank my electrolytes and things, set up, wore my helmet, wore my shades out there looking like a CIA agent. And then whoop, straight onto the bike. Now, this is where everything came together and then fell apart because raw. So I get on the bike, it's like a 5, 6, 7 kilometer steady climb to get out of transition. And this is how, like, whoever drew the route from Mossel Bay, like, you're a genius. Because every time you turn to your left, you're literally just seeing the ocean and a beautiful view. So you kind of forget that you're actually in a race. So steady climb until you get onto the N2, come down into TT position, looking like a pro, Jan Frodeno style and things like that. So in your head, you think you look like Jan Frodeno. In reality, you look like a villager riding a black mamba. But hey, that's neither here nor there. Good thing about triathlon is once you're in your kit, all of you look like pros. So that was a fantastic 17 kilometer stretch on the N2. Then we turned right now to go into the hinterlands of Mossel Bay. And I thought I was moving fast, when in actual fact I had a tailwind. So tailwind was carrying me. Then when I turned right, that tailwind became a side wind. And I was like, bro, what's going on? But it was okay because there are certain sections of the road where now that, generally became a tailwind. Then we had a super drop, man. 8 to 9 kilometers of going downhill. Oh my gosh, I felt like a Ferrari, Maserati, whatever it is, fantastic, having fun. Got to the bottom of the hill, did the turnaround, met the Ironman team, and they're like, hey, Booty, I saw you in Rwanda, now you're here, I saw you in Durban. I'm like, man's international. Anyway, once I turned, I remembered I came down for 9 kilometers. I have to go work up for 9 kilometers. Oh my Jesus. But it was so fantastic because then from there, like I saw Huria and, he's like become he's become a stronger rider and things like that. And then, as a coach, you're happy. You're like, ah! As an athlete, you're like, homie's going to catch me. But then you're like, it means the program is working. More for him than it is for me. But anyway, so, and he did catch me. So big up to you, Huria. I'm proud of you. Keep doing what you're doing. At least this time you didn't have an upset stomach. Neither did you break a bike. Neither did you forget your helmet. Neither did you forget your running shoes. Bro, like this year was systems go. So I'm proud of you. Keep doing what you're doing, bro. Then what happened after that? Yeah, like finish that 9. Let me tell you, it's a 9, but it's like 15. Because even when you get to the top, like it's still a small climb. So did like that million kms of climbing that hill, and it was then from there straight down to the turn. And then when I turned to do the last 17, 18 kilometers to get to Mossel Bay, everything fell apart because remember that tailwind I was talking about? Now you're facing the ocean. What does it become? Headwind. Boom. I went from average pace of 33 kilometers per hour down to like 23, bro. Man, can you believe? Like, guys were checking the app and wondering, like, is this guy cycling backwards or something like that? But anyway, I chose to be that guy, chose not to draft, even though guys were drafting. I see you should have told me that's allowed or not allowed. But hey, got into transition. And you remember now, like that's when the hunger started eating. So remember I had woken up like at 1. Remember now, hey, I just had like a bowl of oats and coffee and things like that. Let me tell you the hunger. The front of my stomach was touching my spine. Wait. Hunger. Hey. For those of you who fast and pray, you understand what I'm talking to. Remember that, if you fast and you break your fast at 6 o'clock, at 5:59, you're seeing hunger. That was it for me, guys. Hey! Now, luckily, shout out to you, Silas and Tutu. This is where they came in. So we had bought lasagna, but as Kenyans say, lasagne. So we had bought lasagne, and then I had packed it in a container, so I put it in my race bag. Let me tell you, hey, I ate that lasagna. It felt like eating, T-bone steak, with sauce and everything. Anyway, luckily the cameramen were not there to see because we were like in a tent. And then, so remember, my mind is everywhere and things like that, I was feeling anxious. So, and I was like, I'd lost my time because I'd done 43 minutes on the swim. I had done 3 hours 30 on the bike, and my target was 40 minutes in the swim, 3 hours 5 on the bike. So now I was just like off my time. But I was like, you know what? For a guy who slept at 1 o'clock, woke up at 1 o'clock, I'm like, bro, you're killing it, That's according to me, not according to like everyone else. But, then from there, decided to literally change something I have never done in any triathlon in my life. And I've been doing triathlons from when I had hair. So you can imagine how long that has been. Okay. I changed my entire kit. I never did my run in a tri-suit. I did my run in, as my friends like to call them, booty shorts and a vest and things like that. So I literally changed my entire outfit. But this was the funny thing. I felt like reborn. Like I was like, I felt lighter. I was like in the flow. I had my, I don't know, maybe, like guys will put a picture or something like that. I think that's what guys do here. Insert picture here. Like a vest with the Kenya flag and, like my nice shorts. And I was just like out here looking like a marathon runner. But, I did run half a marathon after that. And I was feeling fresh, I was like, okay, this feels good. Sun in your face, and things like that. And once I got onto the run route, I just kept saying this. Jesus, thank you. Like, I had COVID like all of 6 weeks ago. Climbing a flight of stairs was like, felt like I'd run 10K. And now I'm running in Mossel Bay. See what I did there? And I was just so thankful, like, because the run route for Mossel Bay, yes. I actually felt challenged as an event manager who does triathlons, because I was like, I need a beautiful route like that. It was such a beautiful route. You literally forget about how hard it is. And, you forget that you need to finish. Like, I literally forgot that I need to finish in a set time, and I'd given myself targets. And I was just like, bouncing back from where I had come from, the challenges that I had faced. We didn't even know if we're going to make it for this particular edition of the event. And then, God came through in such amazing ways. We got fantastic partners on board, Aero Club, East Africa, Navex, Coach Consult, Nomads Beach Restaurant. But of course, Silas, Tutu, Pete, Becky, and everybody who just, rallied together to make sure that we got to the start line. And now, we just had to do them proud. And so for me, when I was racing, I was like, what, thank you, God, for this opportunity, even though I've slept for 3 or 4 hours. And it was a reminder that, pray to him and he'll give you rest. So rest may not come in sleep, but it will come in other forms. And I actually wasn't stressed in the race. I was never stressed. I was not stressed. I was actually just enjoying myself, even though there was a handwield from God knows where. No man is an island. And I say that because triathlon is an individual sport, but you become a success based on the community that you have. And so seeing the TTF and and the overall triathlon community, even in Port Elizabeth and Mossel Bay, just coming together to make sure that every athlete was fantastic. Like, you stand on the shoulders of so many other people who've been able to make the sport great or make your opportunity, a lot easier and things like that. So that's one thing that stood out for me. The second is that your friends, your teammates are like your family, So they generally come together to make sure that, you're successful. Whether you're the coach, whether you're the athlete, whether you're taking photos, whether you're cooking, whatever it is, like, that thing stood out very clearly, that you are your brother's keeper. So make sure that he doesn't fall and things like that. The way you expect God to bless you is not the way it will begin to show itself, but it will eventually come the way you had asked. So it's just like training. The blessing is more in the process than it is in the product. Okay? So this trip, I learned a lot about myself. First and foremost, clearly, my brain never shuts down. So I need to learn how to shut my brain down because it's always churning ideas and things like that. Secondly, but in that churning of ideas, you see how God then blesses you for things that now, with the knowledge and the skill set, to be able to pick something and say, I can implement this in Kenya going forward. So you ask God for knowledge and wisdom, but then it comes in a different way. Like, you have to go through the race, literally almost bonk, and then be like, oh wow, this is how they've decided to divide the road. Very good point. So yeah, you pray to God to be able to, do this race and do it well and finish, okay? And my last two races, actually 3 races, Rwanda, Kilifi, I finished, but I didn't get the time that I wanted. I didn't get the position that I wanted. But then the fact that God allowed me to finish was a blessing in itself, because you've boarded planes, you've taken trains, you've driven cars, traversed cities and things like that. And you can sit and forget that His blessing did come, because the product was, I wanted to finish and finish strong. I didn't finish in the time that I wanted, but I finished and I finished strong, and I was able to be sitting here telling this story about how God has been able to bless me. But then through the process, through the fiery furnace, because all the events I've done, Rwanda, Kilifi and thing, it has been so hot, it felt like a fiery furnace. I don't know how those Kina Shadrach, Meshach and Abednego felt in that fire. Me, hey, dig it hotter, please. But for me, then that was like such a beautiful lesson, because in the process, I was being churned and I was being told, lean more on God, don't lean on your own strength. You can run, and I'll give you the strength to be able to run faster, to swim faster, to cycle faster, but I need you to lean on me. So that for me is just one of the things that stood out, that the blessing does not necessarily come in the package that you expect it, but it will eventually come, because again, like when I crossed the finish line, I looked around and I was like, you're in South Africa, you're in Kilifi, you're in Rwanda, you're in Durban, like these are places some of us used to see in magazines, some of us dreamed of, and now you're there on ground and things like that. So maybe you made a prayer to travel. Maybe you had made a prayer to see the world. But then you just have to go through a triathlon to be able to see it. So yeah. But last but not least, I think I also learned a lot about myself, whether it was patience or impatience, whether it was kindness, unkindness, whether it was mind not shutting down and being able to focus on this particular thing because you're thinking about so many other things. Being kind to yourself with where you are. And I think just also, sometimes we put ourselves on like this pedestal, like that one for where you think you are and then where you actually are, and then just taking it into consideration and acknowledging that this is where I am, this is what God has blessed me with, I'll do the best with what God has blessed me with. And like as I was running and as I was cycling, I was like, yeah, the headwind is crazy, but I'm cycling in Mossel Bay, I want to do this time, so I'll just go and try and push harder. I'll just try and run harder, and if I can't, I thank God that above all else, I can get to the finish line. So it was just like, this is where you are, this is who you are. Maybe you don't have the same fitness level. Maybe you didn't train enough. Maybe you are unwell and things like that. So you can find yourself, putting yourself down when my therapist told me, take stock of all these things that have happened and then now put it together and say, you know what? Thank you, God. Because through all that mayhem, God will eventually bless you. And above all else, my biggest prayer is that when people watch this video, people see us on Instagram and all those things, they know that God is the one. It's not by my strength, it's not by my power, but it's by His grace and His goodness that we're able to do all these things. And that for me is the most important.